Okay, so we're not doing ant facts today. Hey, don't play the intro! Okay, we're not doing ant facts today, but I just gotta say, upon doing all this research for future installments of ant facts, I think it would be cool to be an ant, you know? They have a lot of stuff going for them here, you know? I could be like Ant-Man. I mean, not Ant-Man from the Marvel movies, because he wasn't really like an ant. I'm talking about, like, being an actual Ant-Man. Like, if I was in My Hero Academia, my quirk would be Ant, or something like that. Welcome to the Tekking101 Ant Arc! We've arrived. How long is it gonna last? I don't know, but we're here. Alright, so this will be talking about the voice of Haki, or an extension of the voice of all things, which is probably connected with Haki in, like, a big way. In the last chapter of One Piece, chapter 1015, we had a lot of really cool stuff. Spoilers. We had a lot of battles set up. You know, Sanji's gonna face off against Queen now. We, of course, have Yamato facing off against Kaido, and Luffy is still falling in the ocean, okay? But, while he is falling down into the ocean, he telepathically communicated with Momo somehow, telling him, hey Momo, I'm going to be okay, I'm gonna get out of this, and I'm gonna go defeat Kaido. I'm still going to win, so tell everybody I'm going to win, alright? And so Momo relays that message through the Marys to everybody in Onigashima, and kind of like reinvigorates everybody. Be like, yes, Luffy Taro will rise again anew! And then we see Law's submarine, the Polar Tang, arriving to rescue Luffy, and we don't exactly know how they're gonna get back up to Onigashima, but, you know, Luffy is going to be saved, he's not going to drown, and he has maybe some idea on how to defeat Kaido. But before all of that, before they get back up there and whatever Luffy's going to do in the fight, the question remains, how did that all work, right? Now, we of course already know that during Zou, Momo showed the ability to hear the voice of Zunisha. Luffy was able to do the same thing. They were both able to hear the voice of Zunisha, however, it was only Momo that was actually able to speak with it, okay? This originally led me to believe that Luffy had this power of the voice of all things, and what Momo had was something else. Something directly linked to Zunisha and the Kozuki clan, alright? Because what Zunisha spoke about didn't speak very much, but Zunisha said, you know, a long time ago I was, you know, basically punished, and that punishment causes me to do nothing but walk, and I cannot do anything else unless I'm commanded to do so. And so Zunisha, upon being attacked by Jack and his forces, pleaded with Momo, please, if you're there, if somebody's there, you need to give me an order, okay? And like I said, it's Luffy and Momo that could both hear him. Luffy tried to respond, was shouting, but Zunisha didn't hear him, or either Zunisha was not listening to Luffy. Zunisha specifically needed the orders of probably someone from the Kozuki clan, which Momo was, okay? So that made me think, like, alright, maybe it isn't the voices of all things that Momo can hear. Maybe it's literally just like the Kozuki clan a long time ago were the ones that issued this punishment on Zunisha. Why they would do that, I have no idea. That's probably something, that's Void Century shenanigans right there. But that's the reason Zunisha's walking around the planet. So in order to do anything, it has to be given explicit approval by a member of the Kozuki clan, and Momo was the one that just happened to be there. It really makes you think that if Momo was not present and Jack attacked, I mean, what would have happened? Would Jack have eventually just wounded one of the elephant's legs to the point where it just would have collapsed? How would that have gone? Also, it is kind of interesting because Zou is one of the very few arcs in One Piece where Luffy does not actually fight the major villain. It's great because it's like, yeah, we have this giant elephant that's literally 35 kilometers tall, you know? And so the main villain shows up and it's like, well, Luffy could fight Jack, sure, but couldn't we just have this giant elephant crush it? Boom! And it's like, oh, okay, we just had the giant elephant crush it. That was easy, right? Okay. So that was the original point of confusion there, okay? But later, when we get the flashback with Odin and throughout all of Wano, we also learned that Odin had a similar ability that Roger had, okay? They both had this ability to kind of hear the voices of all things, okay? So I still think, yeah, the stuff that happened with Zunisha is definitely connected to the Kozuki clan in some way, but still, Odin, Roger, Luffy, and Momo all have the same ability to hear the voices of all things. It's just certain creatures, you know, choose to listen in other ways. Like, for example, when the Sea Kings were speaking under the ocean, Roger and Odin could hear them, and they spoke out into the ocean like, who are you speaking down here? And the Sea Kings just ignored them. Alright, even though Odin was a Kozuki clan member, and it's possible Roger could have been, you know, the next Joy Boy, or the one to bear the title of Joy Boy, the Sea Kings did not acknowledge them. The Sea Kings didn't go up to the Oro Jackson and is like, oh my god, you can hear us? And it's like, yes, I am Captain Roger, matey, and this is me, archaeologist, Kozuki Odin. Odin's like, hey, how you doing? And like the Sea Kings start a conversation. No, so they could hear him, but they're like, all right, we're not gonna talk to them. They're weird. They're weird. We're just gonna keep on swimming, just pretend like they didn't hear you or whatever. Or perhaps the reason they didn't is because they only take orders from Poseidon, so they don't have business speaking with anybody other than Sea Kings unless it's the mermaid princess Poseidon. Anybody else, the Sea Kings just don't care. The same thing with Zunisha. Zunisha's like speaking, Luffy could hear, but it's like, I only care about the Kozuki clan, alright? And so this idea of the voice of all things has been around in One Piece for a little while now, and it also seems to be closely connected to Haki. I refuse to believe that observation Haki, the ability to sense life forms around you, and in some sense, you know, like see their auras, like, you know, Usopp was able to see at Dressrosa, and how, like, Fujitora sees the world at, like, a collection of auras. We had Otohime at Fishman Island that could sense the feelings, the emotions of others, like an empath kind of situation. All this stuff that involves observation, and then we have the voice of all things, being able to literally hear the voice of all things, and in some cases, as we've seen here, like actually communicate with people telepathically. These two things are connected in some way, shape, or form, okay? If you just want to say the voice of all things is like the highest level of observation you could possibly attain, or, you know, there's like different branching paths of it. So like Katakuri, for instance, went one path and now he has like the future sight Haki. Then Otohime had the other path that was more of empathy, and then there's like other directions you could take with it, and only maybe like a chosen few could truly unlock observation Haki at its highest level, which is that voice of all things. That seems like it would be, right? Like you would assume like the strongest level of Conqueror's Haki would be to just like subjugate and knock out anybody you wanted at any time with your willpower. The strongest level of armament Haki would be making like some unbreakable force field around you, and the strongest level of observation would be literally to observe everything, to hear the voice of everything, right? But you have to be like predisposed to it. It's like one of those things like Conquerors. You kind of have to be born with the disposition of a conqueror, or born with the disposition to understand the voice of all things. You know, we'll find out more about it in the future, obviously, but that's kind of the situation we have here, okay? Now, all those times when Momo was, like, listening to what's going on the roof, you know, when Momo was hanging out with Shinobu and Yamato's like, you know, how's the battle on the roof? How goes the battle with my father? You know, Momo was like, oh, well, there's this many voices up there fighting. Okay, now it's less. Okay, now it's just Luffy and Kaido fighting. You know, it's just one-on-one, but Luffy's still okay for right now. And then he sensed when Luffy fell. That's kind of how that goes. And Momo was sort of like switching back and forth between like being able to just sense what's going on and not a big deal, and then there was other situations where he seemed to experience pain, where Momo would just be like reading Odin's journal and all of a sudden just like, I can't take all of it, you know, it's horrible, you know. And so that really kind of lends me to think, like, is Momo not just, you know, hearing the voices of like Luffy and Kaido, is he also kind of like experiencing the pain that Luffy is experiencing? Because the what we're led to believe is when Luffy got knocked off of Onigashima, got struck by Kaido, that was like, you know, Momo sensed that and he felt the pain or whatever. That's why he was like clutching his head and he was just like, ow. And the same thing happened at Zunisha when Jack was attacking Zunisha and, you know, he was wounding his leg with all the cannon fire. Momo also reacted in the same way of like absolute pain, okay? It could have just been from the voice like overwhelming him. That could also be a thing. It might not be actual physical pain. It might be like, depending on how loud the voice is, it could actually like hurt his ears, you know, not his physical eardrums, but like overload his brain or something like that. So with Zunisha getting attacked, it was like screaming, you know, I need an order, somebody help me. And that was too much for Momo. Luffy was also kind of like experiencing a little pain from that as well, from how loud that voice was. But then also when Luffy got knocked off and he's like, no, I need to let everybody know I'm still going to win. I need to let everybody know, Momo, you need to hear me, listen to me. Maybe that was overloading Momo and that's why he was like, oh, it hurts, but I need to let everybody know this message that Luffy is like screaming in my ears, like telepathically right now, okay? So, that's all well and good for Momo. That was already kind of established that he could hear these voices and everything. Momo hears voices inside of his head. We already know that. That's already a commonplace in this story. And we already knew Luffy could do it too. Okay, but the fact remains, Luffy is unconscious and still able to communicate with people while unconscious. And not just Momo either, not just somebody that could hear the voices of all things. Luffy was communicating with the people around him. And that's different from what happened at Zunisha, because when Zunisha was speaking, nobody could hear it except for Luffy and Momo. But when Luffy was sinking under the waves, he was able to communicate with the Heart Pirates, with Jean Bart and everybody on the Heart crew were able to hear Luffy, even though they're underwater, with Luffy unconscious, a distance away, and inside of a freaking submarine. You know, they all live in a yellow submarine, quite literally. They could still hear a voice calling to them to arrive at Luffy's location and then save him from drowning, okay? So unless Jean Bart and all the other members of the Heart crew all have the ability to hear the voices of all things, hey, listen, I'm as big of a Jean Bart fan as everybody else. I kind of really want something to happen to that dude because he was a slave at Sabaody, and then he was apparently like a great pirate captain and then Law of Freedom, so he apparently has some kind of notoriety in the world, like Law knew about him, right? So it's like, hey, Jean Bart, come with me, join my crew. And he's like, okay, you know, I got nothing else to do. I don't want to be a slave, so I guess I'll go with you guys, right? So I kind of do want to see some stuff with Jean Bart. Maybe Jean Bart does have the voice of all things. They get to freaking Laugh Tale or whatever, and Robin is like, I can't decipher the Rio poneglyph. It's an even more complicated language. But then Jean Bart walks up and he's like, move aside, I got this. Alright, listen up, pipsqueaks. 900 years ago, this is what happened. Just like, that would be the biggest, like, what the hell moment in One Piece. But I would roll with that, Oda. I would roll with that. No. So it's obvious Jean Bart and the other random members of the Heart crew, like this guy or this lady, you know, they don't have that ability. So Luffy is able to communicate through his observation Haki, just letting everybody know, like, you need to help me. I'm kind of drowning. I can't move, okay? So it kind of resembles the moment when Luffy got knocked out by Kaido at the beginning of this arc at the end of Act 1, and he got, you know, on the ground, he's unconscious, but he was still able to output Conqueror's Haki and even knock out a few members of the Beast Pirates before Kaido grabbed him and they threw him into Udon, okay? So Luffy is able to do this while he's unconscious, alright? That makes people that have Conqueror's Haki probably kind of really dangerous because their will is so powerful, even if they're physically conked out, they can still harm other things or affect things with their Haki, okay? And so it might have been a situation where, like, Luffy in his inner world, his inner mind, which is mostly comprised out of meat houses, you know, just houses made of various bratwursts and ham and whatnot. He's sitting there and he's like, I need to let everybody know I need to defeat Kaido, but I'm currently unconscious. I'm way below the island and I'm sinking, you know, hundreds of feet below the ocean. And my strength is being zapped. And so it's like, I can't speak. I can't move. I need to figure out some way to communicate with people, and he just tried really hard, and then, like, just the will was able to speak, you know, so his will can speak to other people, alright? And it was stated that, yes, the voice of all things is a very rare thing, but anybody could really awaken Haki, even animals, you know, that's how Rayleigh explained it. It's something that everybody in this world has the ability to understand, so that would make sense that the Heart crew, maybe they all know Haki, at least a rudimentary level of, like, observation, like, just, like, the beginning stages of it, and they were able to hear Luffy in that regard, or, you know, Luffy was just doing something where, like, any living creature could hear him. Maybe the octopus would have saved him. If the polar tang did not show up, maybe that octopus from the beginning of the arc would be like, oh, someone's in trouble, I need to go save them, and he's like, thanks, octopus, you know, and Luffy's just like, good job, man, and the octopus is like, anytime, and he jumps back into the ocean. Maybe that would have happened, I don't know. A lot of people were also thinking the Sea Kings were gonna show up and save Luffy at the last minute. I don't know if that would have been feasible considering where they are at, because here's a diagram of the side of Wano, and you can see, like, the actual ocean where the Sea Kings live is on the bottom of the waterfall, because all of Wano is kind of raised up like this big plateau with water pouring off the sides with the waterfalls, okay? And you see that little kind of segment right here, that kind of little pool area, that little pond area? That's actually a pretty big, like it's like a lake. It's like a giant lake, essentially. That's kind of what all of Wano is kind of floating on right now, if you kind of look at this. And that's the location where Onigashima was, you know, floating from the original location all the way over to the mainland. So that's where Luffy fell into. So I don't really think that would make any sense for Sea Kings to be there. At least not like the highly intelligent Sea Kings, the ones that we saw speaking at Fishman Island and anything. Maybe there might be like smaller Sea Kings like the Lord of the Coast that might be in there. But remember, you had the scene with like the scabbards getting in a boat and like floating in the water, and there really wasn't any issue with like sea monsters coming out and eating them. And Kaido lives on Onigashima, so he probably defeated any sort of serious threat that would be living in the waters around him. But yeah, so it wasn't the Sea Kings, but, you know, Luffy did use Haki to save himself, alright? So that kind of opens up, like, does Luffy know how to do that now permanently, or is that going to just be like an Ultra Instinct kind of thing, where it's like Luffy, you know, speaks to others through his observation, and then they'll rescue him, they'll pull him into the submarine, they'll do like chest compressions, you know, and then he'll like, you know, he'll come back into consciousness, and they'll be like, we heard your voice inside of our heads, how did you do that? And then Luffy's like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I need meat. Give me meat and some milk, and I'm gonna punch that dragon clear into next Wednesday, you know? And so Luffy might not have any idea, just like through sheer force of will. Or rather, he might not understand the whole concept, but he might be able to remember, like, I don't remember much. I just remember really wanting to let people know that I'm going to be okay and I'm going to defeat Kaido. And I could hear Momo listening to me. That doesn't make any sense, but I could hear Momo listening to me, and so I was speaking to Momo, and that's all I remember. I don't know how that whole thing works, though, right? So this seems like a thing that needs to be explained by somebody. Like, who would... Here's a question. Like, you had, you know, you're gonna have, like, the Void Century eventually, you know, like, they're gonna read the Rio Poneglyphs, we're gonna find out about that, but who would be a master of the voice of all things that could actually explain what it is to, like, the present storyline of characters, right? Like, how would that work? You know, Rayleigh knows a lot, but Rayleigh didn't hear the voices of all things. You know, he was actually expressly stated to not have the ability because when they were under the water, it was just Roger and Odin that could hear the Sea Kings. Rayleigh was the one that was like, what are you guys talking about? There's nothing down here. We're like 10,000 meters under sea level. So Rayleigh's a wise old master for a lot of things, but that he wouldn't know a lot about. So I'm trying to think of, like, yeah, that wise old mentor kind of character that would be like, you hear voices in your head, do ya? Well, that's the voice of all things. Sit down and let me tell you something. You know, I'm looking for that kind of character, and other from, like, inside of Odin's logbook, I can't really think of anybody else that has that power. Kaido does not have it. Big Mom does not have it. If any of the Yonko would possibly have that power, I could see Shanks having it. I could also see Blackbeard having it. But I don't think, you know, Blackbeard would explain it to Luffy and others, so if Shanks does have this power, and it would make sense, because Roger had the power, he passed the hat down to Shanks, and Shanks passed the hat down to Luffy, and Luffy has it. Shanks, we don't know his full name, but I'm gonna go off on a limb here and say that we're going to find out his whole name, and it's probably gonna have a D in it, I'm gonna assume. So if Shanks had the power, that would make sense, and maybe Shanks could explain to Luffy, like, what this is, or at least what he knows about it, because Shanks would know more than Luffy, how to activate the power, stuff like that. That would actually be really good to knock the story into the final saga, where after Wano is over, we're like, what's gonna happen next? You know, what are they, are the Straw Hats gonna go to Elbaf? Are they gonna go straight to the freaking 4th Road Poneglyph? Are they gonna, you know, what else is gonna happen? That'd be crazy if after Wano, Shanks shows up. Maybe not at Wano, but like the next, you know, island the Straw Hats visit, like Elbaf, there's that theory that Shanks is allied with Elbaf. Shanks would be there partying with the giants and like, oh, hey guys, how you doing? Whatever. And you know, that's that whole thing, like Shanks, when he gave the hat to Luffy, was like, you know, we'll meet again when you become a great pirate. Yes, Luffy has not become the king of the pirates yet, but he'll probably be considered an emperor for sure after Wano has concluded. He's already kind of tentatively considered a 5th emperor. So after this is over, he runs into Shanks, and Shanks is sort of like, you know, he's sort of like the one that introduces them to, like, this is your final saga. This is the final stretch. Okay, maybe Shanks is the one that has the last road Poneglyph. He's just like, I was keeping this safe on Elbaf, an island that's not allied with the world government. You know, it was on Fishman Island. I moved it because we were making sure that it stayed someplace secure. Here you go. You guys can have it. You can make your final journey to Laugh-Tale. I'm not here to, like, you know, I'm not here to ruin your adventure and go with you or whatever. I'm just kind of here to tell you what's going to come next. And maybe Shanks would be like, by the way, Luffy, you can hear the voices. I can too. Here's the situation with that. So yeah, it would be cool to see Shanks being the wise master that actually explains how all this stuff works, okay? But as when it comes to Momo and Luffy, so Momo and Shinobu fell off of Onigashima last chapter too, and then Luffy got rescued by the sub. So the sub is probably going to surface on the beach, and we saw that Onigashima was just beginning to reach mainland Wano. So if Shinobu and Momo fall off, they're probably going to land on a beach somewhere in Udon or somewhere in Hakumai, most likely, from where Onigashima was located, right? If it just traveled in a straight line, like as the crow flies directly to the flower capitals, that's probably where they would land, okay? So they're going to group back up together. Also, I forgot that, yeah, Momo has the ability to fly, kind of. He can float using his clouds, so I didn't think, you know, I didn't think Shinobu and Momo were just gonna fall on Wano and land on a rock and die, but, you know, I was like, oh, maybe Shinobu can use her powers to cushion the impact, but no, it'll probably be Momo. Momo will probably turn into a dragon and use his, like, floating clouds to kind of, like, you know, cushion the impact, so Shinobu and Momo will just kind of float down to the surface, okay, and then Luffy will be saved, and then it'll be that ability that Momo has to, like, sense what's going on. He'll be like, you know, Kaido is fighting against somebody very strong right now, and that would be Yamato, okay, and then Luffy would be like, alright, so they could either use the ability of Momo's clouds generation to get back up to Onigashima. I know that Artor and a few other people had the idea of incorporating Mount Fuji, and that very narrow mountain that's behind the flower capital that has really served no purpose up until now other than just looking cool. Maybe they climb to the top of the mountain because Onigashima is headed toward the flower capital. They climb to the top of the mountain and Luffy rockets back onto Onigashima or whatever. That would be something. But this would all take a lot of time to do, and it's very important that they stay up to date on what's going on with Onigashima. So Momo, I mean, honestly, for right now, Momo, of course, is not a fighter. He's not a combatant in this fight, all right? Momo, I mean, I doubt he's going to have some crazy secret dragon power and shoot a laser beam right at Kaido and kill him, all right? It's not going to happen. Maybe when Momo grows up, he could become a dragon like Kaido, but for right now, no. So his role in this is probably going to be more of just, like, everybody wants to kill him, so that could be an advantage for the other side. Like, okay, they know they're going to come for Momo, so we can take advantage of that. But also, it could be like, hey, I have kind of like a beat on whatever's happening right now in the battle. So Momo can tell Luffy about what's happening with the Tobiropo fighting the Straw Hats, or what's up with Kaido, or what's up with Marco, or whatever. Like Momo kind of has an understanding of all of this at once, okay? So it's very important for him to be around, okay? Yeah, and so since we are moving to mainland Wano now, we can also maybe get some other people involved, like Tenguyama Hitetsu. If Hiyori was not the person that healed the Scourge, I'm thinking Hiyori might already be on Onigashima, but if she's not, she would be in Wano right now. Get her involved into things. Some other samurai that are in the area. Maybe that sumo guy again. I don't know, Yokozuna. Maybe he shows back up again. I don't freaking know. But we're moving to mainland Wano now. There's a few ways Luffy can get back up, but I think that's going to be for a little while. I think Luffy's going to take a break from this fight and try to figure out what to do, and then figure out a way to get back up to Onigashima, and Momo will be very helpful along the way as well, okay? I don't know, maybe you could even use that ability to hear the voices, like, to even mess with Kaido. Like, if Momo could directly speak to Kaido in his head, that would kind of mess things up. If, like, Kaido's fighting Yamato, it's like, Yamato, you fool! Kaido, you suck! Wait, who said that? Bam! You know, that would be an application of the voice of all things and that telepathic communication, taking it to the next level. Hey, Kaido, you stink! Yeah, quit it! Get out of my head! You know, and then Kaido just starts hitting himself with his kanabo, and then it's like a Looney Tunes cartoon. He just, BAM! Oh, Tweety birds, and boom, that's how they defeated him. Nobody said it was going to be serious. They just said that they were going to defeat Kaido, right? Okay, but yeah, I think we're going to find out more about this, maybe not in Wano, but in the arc right after it, because we're going to be getting into the final saga, and Oda's not going to, I don't think Oda's going to reveal everything at once. I don't think Oda's going to reveal Voice of All Things, Will of D, Void Century all at once. He's probably going to sprinkle it throughout the final saga of One Piece. What about Devil Fruits, Vegapunk, all that jazz is going to be found out periodically, and so maybe the first things we find out about is how the voices work, you know, like, why do these people have it, why do other people don't? Maybe it's a thing like if you bear the Will of D, you can awaken it, but not everybody, or there's certain conditions. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching the video, everybody. This will be Tekking and Barry, you know, working on more Ant facts. Don't worry, they're coming to you. Thanks for watching. Signing out.